What if earning more is silently teaching you to spend more and worry more? Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. There are millions of people right now in the United States, in Germany, in the UK, in France, who are earning more money than they ever have in their lives. More than their parents did at their age. More than they thought they'd be making when they were students. And yet, they feel financially stuck. Not because they're irresponsible, not because they don't understand money, but because somewhere between the paycheck arriving and the month ending, it just disappears. And the strange part? The more they earn, the faster it disappears. This video is about understanding exactly why that happens. Not to make you feel guilty about your choices, but to give you a clearer picture of a pattern that most people never even realize they're inside of. Let's start with someone we'll call Marcus. Marcus is 31 years old. He lives in a mid-sized American city, let's say Austin, Texas. He works in tech operations for a mid-level company. He's not a senior executive. He's not entry-level either. He's exactly where a lot of people his age are hoping to be. He earns $75,000 a year. To most people in his family, that sounds like a lot. And honestly, it is. It's above the U.S. median household income. He worked hard to get here. He paid his dues. But here's what $75,000 actually looks like once real life begins. After federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare contributions, Marcus takes home roughly $54,000 a year. That's about $4,500 a month. Now let's build his monthly life. Not an extravagant life, a normal one by 2024 standards in a city like Austin. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, $1,450. He has a car, not a luxury car, a 2022 Honda Accord, financed. Monthly payment, $480. Insurance on top of that, $130. So the car alone costs him $610 a month. He has a student loan, $28,000 left from his undergraduate degree. Monthly payment, $310. Groceries, utilities, phone bill, internet, roughly $520. Health insurance contribution not covered by his employer, $180. So before Marcus has gone to a single restaurant, bought a single item of clothing, taken a weekend trip, or done anything that makes life feel like life, he has already spent $3,070 of his $4,500. He has $1,430 left. And here's where it starts to get interesting, because Marcus isn't reckless. He doesn't gamble, he doesn't have a substance problem. He's actually quite thoughtful about money, or at least he thinks he is. But that $1,430 has a way of shrinking very, very quickly. A dinner out with a colleague, $55. A weekend visit from a friend he hasn't seen in a year, $200 across 2 days. A new pair of work shoes because his old ones are worn out, $110. A streaming service he forgot he was still subscribed to, $17. A gym membership he keeps meaning to cancel, $45. A spontaneous online purchase on a Tuesday night, $80. That's $507 gone, and none of it was irresponsible. None of it was luxury. It was just life. He saves, in a good month, around $400 to $600, and in some months, nothing. Marcus isn't failing. Marcus is completely, utterly normal, and that's exactly the problem. 18 months later, Marcus gets promoted. His salary goes from $75,000 to $92,000 a year. This is a genuine achievement. It should matter. It should change things. His take-home pay increases to roughly $5,500 a month. That's a real difference, $1,000 more per month than before. Within 3 months of the raise, Marcus moves into a slightly better apartment. The rent goes from $1,450 to $1,800. It has a nicer kitchen, a gym in the building, a parking space. He also upgrades his car. The Honda Accord gets traded in. He gets a 2023 BMW 3 Series, financed, over 60 months. Monthly payment, $680. Insurance on a BMW, $195. Total car cost $875 a month. That's a jump of $265 per month just from the car decision alone. He also starts eating out a little more regularly because he can, because he earned it, because his colleagues go to nicer places now, and it feels natural. His discretionary spending, what economists might call lifestyle expenditure, quietly rises by about $400 a month. So let's do the math again. New take-home, $5,500. New rent, $1,800. New car total, $875. Student loan, still $310. Groceries, utilities, phone bill, internet, now $570. Health insurance, $180. He has already spent $3,070 of his $4,500. He has $1,765 left and only $335 more than he had before, despite earning $1,000 more per month. The raise happened. The lifestyle happened faster. This is not a Marcus problem. This is a human problem, and it has a name. Economists call it lifestyle inflation. Behavioral psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. But the honest, plain language version of it is this. We are wired to normalize comfort. Whatever we have right now, after a few months, becomes the baseline, the new normal. The floor, not the ceiling. And every time that floor rises, it becomes almost psychologically impossible to go back below it without it feeling like loss, even if objectively nothing bad has happened. Marcus doesn't feel like he upgraded. He just feels like he just settled in. The BMW doesn't feel like a luxury anymore. It feels like his car. The $1,800 apartment doesn't feel like an upgrade. It feels like where he lives. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the reference point. It simply means we don't evaluate our situation in absolute terms. We evaluate it relative to what we've already experienced. So a person earning $45,000 who gets a raise to $55,000 feels genuinely wealthy for a while, and a person earning $150,000 who gets cut back to $120,000 feels genuine distress, even though $120,000 is still an objectively high income by any statistical measure. It's not logic, it's biology. And the financial industry, in the United States, in the UK, everywhere, understands this better than most people realize. The car financing model is perhaps the clearest example. When Marcus walked into that dealership, the salesperson didn't ask him, "How much does the car cost?" They asked him, "What kind of monthly payment are you comfortable with?" That one sentence is doing something very specific. It is shrinking the psychological size of the purchase. $43,000 for a car is a confronting number. $680 a month for 60 months is a manageable sounding number. But 680 times 60 is $40,800 before you factor in the interest, which on a typical auto loan in the US in 2024 runs somewhere between 6% and 9%, depending on credit score. At 7% interest on a $40,000 loan over 5 years, Marcus will pay approximately $7,700 in interest alone. He didn't buy a $43,000 car. He bought a car for closer to $50,700, and it will be worth perhaps $22,000 when he finishes paying for it. That difference, roughly $28,000 in lost value, didn't disappear into thin air. It transferred from Marcus's future net worth to the balance sheet of a financial institution. And Marcus is not unusual for doing this. In the United States, the average monthly car payment for a new vehicle crossed $700 in 2023. In the UK, personal contract purchase (PCP) deals have become so normalized that millions of people essentially rent vehicles indefinitely without ever building equity. This is not a moral failure. It is a system that is very well designed and a psychology that the system knows how to work with. Now, if you're watching this from Europe, Germany, the Netherlands, France, Sweden, you might be thinking, this sounds like a very American problem. We have stronger social safety nets, lower healthcare costs, more regulated lending markets. And you're right, to a degree. But the core pattern, earning more, spending in proportion, building little, exists there too. It just wears different clothes. Let's take someone we'll call Daniel. He's 34, he lives in Hamburg, Germany. He works in logistics management and earns 62,000 euros a year, which in Germany, after income tax and social contributions, leaves him with roughly 3,100 to 3,300 euros per month, depending on his specific tax class. His rent, in a mid-range Hamburg neighborhood, runs 1,150 euros a month for a two-bedroom flat. That's considered reasonable by Hamburg 2024 standards, but it represents a significant portion of his income. He doesn't have the same student loan pressure as Marcus. Germany's public university system kept his education debt low. But he does have a car on a leasing agreement, a Volkswagen Passat, costing him 390 euros a month plus insurance. He uses a Visa credit card for convenience, not out of necessity, or so he believes. His balance rarely clears to zero. After fixed costs, rent, car, insurance, health contributions, phone, groceries, Daniel has roughly 700 to 900 euros in genuinely discretionary income, which sounds manageable, until you factor in that Germany's cost of living has risen sharply since 2021, utility bills in particular. Energy costs in Germany increased significantly following the energy crisis of 2022. Daniel saves, when things go well, about 200 to 300 euros a month. At that rate, after 10 years, he will have saved roughly 24,000 to 36,000 euros before inflation erodes its purchasing power, not because he failed, because the structure of his financial life was never truly designed to build wealth. It was designed to maintain lifestyle. Let's stay with Marcus for a moment and look at what the cumulative cost of this pattern actually looks like over time. Between the ages of 28 and 38, 10 years, Marcus will have earned, in rough terms, somewhere between $750,000 and $950,000 in gross income, assuming modest salary progression. That is nearly $1 million passing through his hands. In those same 10 years, if he maintains his current savings rate of roughly $400 to $600 per month, he will have saved approximately $48,000 to $72,000. That's somewhere between 5% and 8% of what he earned. Now consider this. If during those same 10 years he had made two different decisions, kept his car payment under $350 a month, and delayed the apartment upgrade by 18 months, the math changes considerably. The difference in monthly cash flow from just those two decisions, roughly $600 to $700 per month, invested consistently over 10 years at a historically reasonable market return. And this is a general illustration, not a guaranteed figure, because market returns vary and no investment is without risk. That difference in behavior could represent somewhere between $90,000 and $110,000 in additional accumulated wealth. Not because Marcus found a secret investment, not because he worked harder, but because he didn't allow his fixed costs to absorb every dollar of every raise. The trap isn't spending money. The trap is allowing your cost structure to permanently expand every time your income rises, so that the gap between what you earn and what you keep never actually grows. People who manage to build genuine financial stability over time, not wealthy by inheritance, not lucky, just quietly stable, tend to share one underlying behavior. They treat a raise differently, not with discipline in the harsh sense of the word, not with deprivation. They simply ask a different question. When Marcus gets his $17,000 raise, the instinctive question is, what can I afford now that I couldn't before? The more useful question is, what percentage of this raise do I actually want to feel, and what percentage do I want to put somewhere that my future self will benefit from? It's a simple reframe, but the implications are significant. If Marcus had decided, when the raise arrived, to direct 50% of the after-tax increase towards savings or debt reduction, just 50%, not all of it, he would have still had $500 more per month to spend however he chose. The lifestyle upgrade could still happen, just more slowly and more deliberately. He might have kept the Honda another 2 years. He might have taken a slightly smaller apartment upgrade. These aren't sacrifices in any meaningful sense. They are timing decisions. People who understand this also tend to think about fixed costs differently from discretionary spending. Discretionary spending, a dinner, a holiday, a jacket, is finite. You spend it, it's gone, and it doesn't repeat. Fixed costs, rent, car payments, loan installments are not finite. They repeat every month reliably for years, and they are psychologically invisible because they're automatic. This is why the most impactful financial decisions aren't usually the small ones. They're the lease you sign, the car you finance, the apartment you choose, because those decisions determine the floor of your spending for the next 2 to 5 years, regardless of what happens to your income. Financially aware people treat those decisions slowly, even when their income feels stable. They also tend to resist a quieter form of pressure, the kind that doesn't come from advertising, but from the people around them. When Marcus's colleagues move to nicer apartments, when they drive better cars, when they suggest restaurants in a different price range, the pressure to match is real. It's social. It's human. It's not weakness to feel it, but understanding that this pressure exists and that it has a financial cost is the first step to making clearer choices about when to yield to it and when not to. Marcus isn't a cautionary tale. He's a portrait of something very common, a person doing everything that society signals is correct, working hard, earning more, living in a way that reflects his income, and still finding that the financial security he assumed would follow hasn't quite arrived. The trap doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like a mistake when you sign the lease. It doesn't feel like a mistake when you drive the new car off the lot. It feels like progress, because relative to where you were, it is. But progress in lifestyle and progress in financial position are not the same thing. And for a long period of time, sometimes years, they can move in completely opposite directions without anyone noticing. The awareness of that gap is not a reason for guilt. It is simply useful information. What you do with it is genuinely up to you. Subscribe.